new to our channel, we are unexpectedly spending the winter in Boston. We put our plans to start a second round the world on hold in 2020, and we sailed the Northeast United States during the summer. For reasons explained in episode 57, we winterized BioTrek to stay in our apartment in Boston this winter. We previously sailed around the world with a Katana 472 that we called BioTrek because I'm a biologist and Pierre loves Star Trek. And when we purchased our new boat, the Outremer 5X, last summer, we also decided to name it BioTrek. During our next round the world, we really look forward to spending time in the places we love best. Blue water sailing to remote areas of the world does take lots of preparation, and this series of Sail the World is about how to prepare. We're making this series to share our experience and also as our own checklist to be ready to depart this coming spring. Well, welcome to BioTrek Sailing. And this is the second in our series on how to go sailing or how to prepare to go sailing. In our first video, we mentioned the most important thing is to make a plan. So where are you going to sail? How long are you going to go for? And to set a date. Often joining a rally is a good way to set a date. And then checking off a lot of things from the list that you need to do, such as your home, finances, dealing with money, family, and making a plan for that. And then finally, sticking with your date and leaving when you said you would. In this video, we're going to go a little bit more detail on different things that you need to do to prepare to go sailing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is safety on board. So safety on board, for us, that's safety about being secure and knowing your boat and how to sail it, and also having all the safety equipment. So when we decided to do around the world, I was not experienced in sailing catamarans. So Pierre, you sent me off on a sailing course. And actually it was organized by a friend of mine. We went to the Virgin Islands off season. We were 3 women and a captain, and I learned a tremendous amount. We were navigating with paper charts and docking the boat ourselves, and it was very empowering.
I see too often the women will take, a back seat to the whole adventure, and the male or the captain or whatever he wants to call himself will be the master on board, making all the decisions. And that type of segregation, I find, is not very good for teamwork on the boat, and also creates issues in terms of backup if something happens. You don't want to be dependent on only one person. We see that as having been implemented in the airlines for years and years and years, where you have 2 fully qualified pilots up front. One happens to be senior to the others. Well, that's the one he's called a captain, but basically they both can fly the aircraft by themselves. But I always thought that the same principle was very applicable to navigating on long passages on the water, where both person, Lisa and I, should both be able to do everything on the boat. We don't have to do it as well as the other, but being able to take control, use a VHF, trim the sails, or go from A to B safely, put the autopilot, lower the sails, put the autopilot on, get into our harbor, all of these things, which should be very well known and understood by the 2 of us. That for me, that's a requirement. And second, I find that in couples, having one teach the other is not the best way to do it, because I'm not a teacher, and of course I have my set ways. There are things that I think are absolutely normal for me that might not be normal for somebody else, or there might be some weaknesses in myself or in the other person which won't be detected. I find the easiest way is to have your partner go on a course by yourself, by himself or herself, whatever. But I think it's also important, whenever they go on that course, that they be on the course of people with similar backgrounds, similar experience, and up to a similar gender. So it was very important for me when Lisa showed an interest into doing longer distance sailing, that she would go and complement all the courses and all the teaching that she had previously sailing her small boat to the bigger boat to gain confidence.
Outremer likes to teach the woman how to drive the boat, because the rationale is the man's stronger, he should be managing the lines. I made the decision that I don't want to drive the boat in port. I'm kind of nervous, and Pierre's so good at driving the boat. But my argument is if you know what you're doing with the lines, you don't need to be strong. And so we've always managed very well that way. And with good communication, sometimes if it's windy, we will put on headphones so we can speak to each other and there's no yelling, and you just look professional when you come into port. So what can you do if you're coming up to port and the conditions are less than ideal?
We also see these mistakes repeating themselves all over the world, everywhere, where one will insist in coming into the harbor even though the conditions are not great, and going into a slip which is marginal, which could be easy to do with no wind, but when it's windy it's more difficult. There are always ways. You can always tell the marina, listen, it's too windy for us, to go in at the present time in this type of dock. Let's go to the fuel dock or remote dock temporarily until the wind abides, or the next morning. So if you're not comfortable in the marina at all, fine, just go and anchor somewhere and wait for tomorrow. It's not like an aircraft flying at 30,000 feet and you have half an hour of fuel left, and you better make up your mind because at one point or the other you're going down. So with a boat, most of the time you just go in and say, okay, fine, I'm not comfortable with this. You can ask for help. You can ask for the harbor master to come in with a dinghy to help you pull you in. There's no problem in doing this. When we go in with a catamaran and it's windy, and if we only have one engine going, I have no problems into asking for help if we really have to go to a dock. If not, I'll try to go to a fuel dock, which is normally much easier to access, and you can easily do that on one engine.
The other thing about safety on board is getting all the gear. And I'm going to put in the link below a list from the Atlantic Rally for Cruisers, or the ARC as it's called, because they have a really, I think, comprehensive list of gear that you need. The basic requirements are life raft, EPIRB, long-range communication, generally satellite, VHF, AIS, bilge pumps, flares, crew overboard recovery and throwing lines, navigation lights, searchlights, check stays, life jacket for each person on board, and all heavy equipment must be firmly secured. The boat should also carry navigational charts, anchor, fire extinguisher, emergency tiller, hacksaw in case the boat is dismasted to cut away rigging, foghorn, medical kit, and a grab bag. Even though catamarans without a lead keel don't sink, we still carry a grab bag because there's a risk of fire, although on BioTrek that's greatly reduced because we use induction cooking and not propane. During our last round the world rally, one boat was dismasted and they were able to save the boat by cutting away the rigging. Some of the items you should really get and test out and be familiar with before you go. So one of the things is the life vest, because you need to have an inflatable one, get an AIS to go with it, one with the splash hood, and then there are videos just showing how these work, and unpacking it, looking at it, knowing where everything is and being familiar with it is not only good for you, but you need to teach any crew or guests who come on board.
That's especially important because it's not whenever where you really want to save money on these types. The point is, the more comfortable a life depth is, the smaller it is, these newer types, you don't even know you're wearing them anymore. So if you have to go in front of the boat, play around the mast,
at
or
night,
take a reef or anything else at night. Well, we never get out of the cockpit if there's not somebody else present in the first place. So
and
if
we
something
wear
has to
them
be
at
done,
night. Yeah.
we get somebody else. But at night, especially with these new vests now, which incorporate the lanyard, the safety lanyard, we always wear it at night. Why not? You're sitting up, doing your watch outside, it's a beautiful night and everything else, the other person is asleep. So you just clip yourself somewhere and you're nice and comfortable, and if something happens or you need to go forward for any reason at all, you go inside the boat and wake up your partner to come up and keep an eye on you while you're doing it.
And you've had the experience of a rogue wave before smashing you down on the deck.
Yeah, on one of the previous crossing I did on the IMS 40-footer, monohull, during the night. I was outside, all the hatches were closed, everything else as we do at night, in the door, in the trade winds. And I was clipped in with an offshore suit and a full harness, and somehow at one point a rogue wave came by, which was at least as high as the mast, a good 50-foot rogue wave. Just one of those is enough. And it just took the whole boat, smashed it in the water, the whole sail, the mast smashed in the water. The wave went right over us and the boat came back up. Luckily enough, I was sitting on the weather, trimming the autopilot 1 degree left, 1 degree right. It was dark, low clouds, so no visibility. Never saw that wave coming. All I know is that at one point I had that thousands of pounds of pressure of water that just pushed me right down in the cockpit. And then once the wave was by, boat stood back up. You know, my friends down below opened the hatch and what the hell happened? I don't know. And
but you were still on board.
I was still on board. I was there all wet. I went downstairs, removed my offshore suit, and it was a great big red mark, and that's where my safety harness was attached because of the pressure of the water. So it's clear in that case that if I had not been wearing a safety harness, I would have been thrown right overboard and be gone, especially the leg. So these things can happen. You know, it's a question of trying to scare anybody. I've done, I don't know, 11 Atlantic crossing and, you know, second around the world now, but the point is that a lot of mileage, and it's only ever happened once. It's extremely rare, but they do happen, and there's no reason for it to be consequential. When Lisa mentioned the safety harness, now they have some real nice small units with you know, personal transmitters on board with you know, a set MSI number. And in the past, there used to be EPIRB transmitters that would transmit to a satellite, and satellite was transmit to a shore station. Shore station would find somebody else and call a list of people that they have. And so it's a fairly long process before anything happens. And if you are just thrown overboard and just swimming and just waiting for something to happen, it could be several hours or up to several days. So now the newer technology is to have what they call a personal AIS on board, and these are a radio beacon that works directly with the VHF of the boat and all of the boats around you within a radius of 10 to 15 miles. And these are much safer, because as soon as you fall overboard and the AIS is activated, automatically your vessel and any vessel around will have an AIS alert on VHF. It's pretty loud, believe me. And then on most compatible shot plotter, you're going to have a man overboard with a point blinking on it with bearing and distance showing on the shot plotter. And it's just beautiful technology. Even if I'm going to bed and somebody else is on watch, I know if something happens and really drastic, like the one I just mentioned, and somebody falls overboard, at least the odds of being able to get back to that person quickly now are within reach. If we have any issue at all, we just, you know, enable that EPIRB, and the EPIRB is going to get satellite and Coast Guard and everybody else involved.
I hope you liked this video, and as always, we appreciate comments from our viewers, and please give us a like. Until next time.